Yeah.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Audio check here. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just great. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
For everyone else, we just have about 2 minutes before the meeting begins, so we'll start right on time.
Yeah.
I will sip my coffee. Thank you.
Rhonda did just confirm we need 2 more members to join, and 1 is joining right now, so anticipate being able to start on time.
Yep.
Hey Heather, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I'm gonna stay on the call, but I'm probably gonna turn my camera off shortly after we get started. Because I think I'm having some connection issues and I don't want to slow anyone down.
Understood. Thanks for the heads up. We are admitting 2 more members, and then I think Chair Clifton, we are ready to begin. We're all set.
All set?
All set.
Excellent. Good morning, everybody. My name is Greg Clifton. I'm serving as your chair of the Mountain Line Technical Advisory Committee, the TAC, and today is April 4th, 10 o'clock, and we will call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the TAC. Coconino County, Tiffany Kerr.
Good morning, I am here.
Good morning. Coconino County Citizen Representative Carol Covington.
Also present.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Greg Clifton.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James.
I am here.
And alternate Carlton Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Metro Plan Dave Wessel. I'm not sure if he'll be joining us today or not. NAU Aaron Stum.
Here.
Thank you. Our NAU student Maria Matchler.
Present.
Thank you. CCC Kurt Stoll.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. And our Economic Development Representative, Citizen Representative Gail Jackson.
Here.
Thank you. We also have our attorney Cameron Stanley on the line.
Morning.
Morning. And we do have a guest presenter today, Mandia Gonzalez from Metro Plan. And we have members of staff here in the Vera Room and on Zoom. And I'll turn it back to you. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. I apologize that I'm not there in person, but I want to thank those who are and all of those who are attending online. I hope everybody's having an awesome day. We will go into our safety minute, and this goes to Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's once again April, which means it is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and transportation accidents are the leading cause of workplace fatalities, accounting for 40% of all fatalities, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data. Many of these accidents can be attributed to distracted driving. Here are a few things you can do to avoid distracted driving habits. Avoid eating or drinking while you are driving. Do not let your mind wander from the task of driving and keep your attention on driving. Be especially watchful for pedestrians or bicyclists on the roadway. Avoid lengthy or in-depth conversations with passengers in the vehicle. Avoid anything that takes your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, and your mind off of driving. Cell phone use while driving is strictly prohibited. Please see your company's distracted driving policy for specific details that pertain to your exact job title. Our distracted driving policy is 4.27 and is on page 72 of our personnel policy manual. If anyone would like a link, please let me know. Please take this pledge this month to drive distraction free. Thank you and welcome to the April Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Sam, thank you. I always enjoy these safety minutes. This one's a really good one this month, so thanks for sharing. I'm going to turn it back to Heather to talk about some milestones, and I think we have anniversaries and a couple of add-ons. Heather?
I do. Thank you, Chair Clifton. I would like to first start with recognizing our 3 April milestone anniversaries. So Mountain Line celebrates 1, 5, 10, 15, etc. anniversaries as milestones. And so today we are celebrating Jeff Beal. Jeff joined us a year ago as a transit operator. He performed as an operator on our paratransit side while he worked on obtaining his CDL. He's now qualified to drive both fixed route and paratransit and is a true dedicated team member. He's committed to safety and customer service, and we are grateful for his patience while in training and his persistence to achieve his CDL. In the middle of the screen is Jordan Goodwin. Jordan is also celebrating 1 year as our mechanic assistant. A little bit about Jordan. He has been Mountain Line's #1 fan for many years as a rider. While we were doing a job fair at the Downtown Connection Center, he actually approached us and said, "I love the buses and I would like a job here." I was repeating this story to our mechanics team and they said, "Hey, I think we can find a place and a job for Jordan." So he joined us a year ago as our mechanic assistant. Jordan can actually tell you the mileage and age of almost every vehicle in our fleet ever. And he's regularly found wandering the building, sharing smiles with staff before and after his shift. He does a fantastic job of assisting our team with completing bus detail work. And we are looking for ways to advance his training and skills with the potential of having him assist our mechanics further with maintenance duties like pre-trips and topping off fluids. So very excited to celebrate Jordan's first year with us here at Mountain Line. On the far right side of the screen is Ken Lisinski. Ken actually started with Mountain Line in 2014 as a transit operator. He's held several positions with us, including trainer, where he helped develop many of our existing drivers. Ken works mostly behind the scenes today in his role. He builds driver schedules and creates route mapping solutions that are key to the planning needs of our riders and communication with our riders. Ken is extremely organized in all he does, coordinating special events and keeping operations moving forward with thoughtful and strategic planning. Ken is a key asset to Mountain Line, and we are grateful for his significant contribution to our services. So we will be celebrating all 3 of these staff throughout the month with celebrations with their peers and at staff meetings. So I wanted to share those remarks from supervisors with you. Not milestone anniversaries, but another bit of recognition I'd like to just tag on to today's agenda is we have 2 TAC members that this is potentially their last Transit Advisory Committee meeting. And so I would like to thank both Tiffany Kerr and Maria Matchler for being reliable participants in our Transit Advisory meetings, and we will miss their participation significantly. Tiffany joined the TAC several years ago on behalf of Coconino County Manager's Office, and we've been fortunate to work with Tiffany both through the TAC meetings and more directly on past programs implemented to advance access to healthcare as part of a county grant program. And we'll miss her on both sides of that relationship. And Maria Matchler, I believe, is graduating from Northern Arizona University this year and has been our student body representative. And we're thankful for her participation in our transit advisory meetings and her service to Mountain Line. So wanted to take a moment and recognize both of those kind of departing members. I think we have Tiffany at a couple more meetings, but it's my understanding that this is Maria's last meeting. So thank you, Tiffany and Maria, for all that you've done for Mountain Line and our Transit Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Heather. I'm going to echo your comments. Congratulations to Jeff and Jordan for your first year anniversary, and Ken, 10 years. Wow. Very impressive. And then Tiffany and Maria, thank you so much for serving on the Transit Advisory Committee. Maria, congratulations on your upcoming graduation. That's great. So
Thank
good
you.
stuff. Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on, this, by the way, can be a pretty short meeting today. Heather and I were going over the agenda. It looks pretty short, so we'll give you some time back in your day, I think. Heather, do we have any call to the public participants?
We have no one in the room or online for public participation.
Okie doke. Moving on. We are on to the approval of the TAC minutes from last month, March 7th. Any comments on those minutes, Heather? I think do we need a motion to approve this?
Yes, this is, and we do ask the TAC to take action on.
Mr. Chairman, this is Erin Stom. I make a motion to approve.
And I will second it. This is Carol Covington.
Aaron and Carol. Aaron moves to approve, Carol second. Any further comments on this? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you all. The minutes are approved. And now we're moving on to the review of the draft board business agenda.
So our first presenter is Metro Plan. So we're welcome Mandia Gonzalez to present on the Route 66 operational assessment project she's been working on.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Clifton and members of the TAC. Happy to be here today. We're just going to go ahead and jump right into what is an operational assessment and how is this helping Mountain Line? Whoops, wrong way. There we go. Nope. Maybe. Am I going too far? Sorry. I didn't get stuck somewhere. Oh,
Huh.
I didn't see him in the presentation when I was in there earlier.
You know, I sent him in yesterday. You switch chairs if you don't mind.
What's that?
I think I just have to stop.
Yeah,
Sharing.
no problem.
Are you in the Zoom meeting?
I am not in the Zoom meeting, so I would also need an
I put them
invite.
in
I'm so
yesterday as
sorry.
soon as you gave them to me. Or I can run to my desk and put them in, either way.
If we can just pull it up separately.
Okay. Sorry.
Do you,
no
do you
worries.
have it, Rhonda, or would you like to have Mandia join? Sorry, TAC, one moment while we deal
Sorry.
with the technical difficulty.
All good. No problem.
Rhonda, would you prefer Mandia join the Zoom?
I think oh, I could pull them up separately. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
One moment while I pull up that separate presentation.
Stop sharing. And. See. I think
They're probably still on your email.
yeah, but that will take forever. I think we might have been in there. Don't know if this would fit. Let's see. No. Okay, so I don't have them saved, sorry. Separately.
No problem. Would you like to message me the Zoom link and I can just join and share from here? Would that be easier?
Let me go to my desk. and add them because, I'm sorry.
Mindy, if you don't
I
mind, we'll
don't
go on
have-
with a couple other
Yeah, of
items
course,
while
of
Rhonda
course.
does that,
No
and we'll come
worries.
back. Chair Clifton, is that
That
okay
sounds
with you if
great.
we kind of reorder the agenda so we can keep moving?
Okay.
And I'll do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you like to go on with, I see the next item is the consent agenda. Should we just jump right into
Yep.
that and keep going forward? Okay. Thank you, Heather and Rhonda. We have the consent agenda and scrolling down here.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, and the only item there that I see is the Metro Plan and Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit. Bear with me. It's just that one singular item, correct?
It is that one singular item, and so we can pull it if there's questions. Otherwise, we can go right into the discussion and action items.
That sounds like a plan. Unless there's any discussion on that, we can go right into the discussion items. There are 4 of them: the financial audit, the capital budget, expansion of the reduced fare program, and the commercial driver's license course project. Any discussion on these or comments?
Well, we'll have presentations on all 4 of these, so we can start with Josh's presentation on the financial audit.
Perfect. Thanks for helping me out there. Josh, you are up if you're ready.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chair Clifton and members of the TAC. Josh Stone here, Management Services Director. You all know that. This agenda item is going to be pretty brief. Mountain Line is required by, and I actually don't have a presentation really. This slide is it for you. Mountain Line is required by the intergovernmental agreement of our partners and state statutes to have an annual audit of our financial statements conducted by an independent certified public accountant after the conclusion of each fiscal year. As an organization receiving more than $750,000 in federal program grant funding, we are also required to conduct a single audit of federal financial assistance. And we have contracted with accounting firm Fester and Chapman for these services for the last several years. So the fiscal year 2023 audit was pretty straightforward. Mountain Line provides the auditor with complete general ledger financial statements and a draft schedule of federal expenditures report. Fester and Chapman completed their review over several months, both on site and remotely. Internal controls and policies are reviewed. Compliance with financial regulations is reviewed. Various aspects of our financial system and selections of transactions are reviewed and tested. They don't look at every single transaction, but they pick out the areas that are perhaps most at risk and review those. All financial statements for this audit were found to be free of material errors. The underlying financial data was found to be sound. No particular deficiencies were noted in our federal grant reporting. So that is good news. We did file our comprehensive audit report, audited financial statements, and single audit dated March 29th. We're required to file the report each year by March 31st. So to meet that filing deadline, the report was certified and submitted that day. The final report has been made available for your review in the agenda packet today, and has also been posted to the reporting section of Mountain Line's public review. That's pretty much it. I should thank everyone on staff that contributes every day throughout the year to making sure our records are being kept accurately. and following all financial policy procedures. Anyone who makes a purchase every day has a hand in that, and so it's much appreciated. That's all I have for this. The TAC doesn't need to approve this, it's most informational for you.
Thank you, Josh. I think the thank yous go right back to you and your team. I'm sure many of us in the meeting can appreciate all that goes into these audit reports. Even though it's a very succinct reporting in the end, there's a lot of legwork that goes into these. And I think they are reflective of very good fiscal practices when they come out, as this one did, being very, very positive. So kudos to the entire team who oversees the finances at Mountain Line. Good job on this. And are there any other comments from the group on the audit report?
This is Carol. I had a question, if I may.
Please.
I noticed in the recommendation of this that it was filed as required by March 31st, 2024. And then on the next page, it just says that the report filing due date is March 29th, 2023. So it's a different day and a different year. So I'm thinking that that's a typo, but I could be just misreading it.
That is likely a typo, and that's kind of backwards if I heard you right. It's due by the 31st. It was filed on the 29th, but
Okay.
both 2024. So the 2023 date is obviously a typo.
Okay, so it wasn't, okay, and so I think it's also a misstatement to say that the report filing due date is March 29. That's not exactly,
Right.
I was just caught off guard by the fact that there were two different filing dates. And forgive me for my my reading of these things. So,
No, thank you. We'll definitely update that for the
okay, thanks.
for the board meeting.
Actually, Carol, yeah, thank you for catching it. It's clerical, but it's important. So thank you so much. Yeah, that was very, very thorough of you, and we appreciate that. Excellent. Any other comments on the audit report? Heather, I'm going to do a check-in back with you. Do you want to circle back or do you want to keep going?
I would like to circle back. That way Mandia doesn't have to sit through our whole meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do her guest presentation. Thank you, Chair Clifton.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
But I don't mind. All right, we're gonna try take two here.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience, everyone. There. Woo, all right. Let me see, actually. Sorry, one moment. If I can squish this down a little bit.
I wouldn't worry about it, Rhonda. Just,
No,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
Just go ahead and share as is for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Can you see that, Chair Clifton?
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you all. For today's presentation, I am gonna keep it fairly high level, just given where we are in our planning process for the operational assessment. But, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. I'll also be taking questions at the end as well. All right, so let's see. Great. So this operational assessment is being conducted by Metro Plan on behalf of the city of Flagstaff. We're assessing 4 miles of West Route 66 from Milton Road to Interstate 40. This planning effort is looking at the current conditions of how the roadway is operating and performing, and then looking towards the future. As I'm sure some of you are aware, there's a lot of development out there. So that development is going to have an influx of people and businesses, and so we need to determine how that will impact the roadway and its operations here in the future. Additionally, I'm sure you're all aware that the city is doing an update to their regional plan. And through that update, they have a variety of future scenarios. So we're really using those scenarios from that data and community feedback as the basis of our evaluation. And ultimately, we're trying to find a solution that responds best to all these possible futures, because obviously the future is very uncertain, and determine how best to, mitigate any impacts to the roadway itself. And just for a little bit more context, this is a multi-jurisdictional effort. ADOT is the primary roadway owner, with the county owning a small portion near Flagstaff Ranch Road. The city obviously is responsible for land use and zoning along the corridor, and the implementation of Proposition 419 tax funds, which is indicated by that orange line. And then, of course, we have Mountain Line as our transit operator. So jumping into purpose, the end product of this planning effort will be a project or projects recommendation that meets the funding requirements of the city's 419 funds, with the intent of these tax dollars to be leveraged by the city to move forward with these future roadway improvements and respond once again to that future growth along there. Now, future growth along the corridor, as we said, is uncertain, so we'll be using these findings to help make a reasonable recommendation to those uncertainties. Helps if I hit the right button. Great. Additionally, the end product will provide further guidance to Mountain Line on the potential expansion of Route 8. Your 5-year plan, Flagstaff in Motion, has proposed some bus stop locations and amenities along West Route 66. So we'll be using these future scenarios, and once we get closer to honing in on, a project or projects, we can then analyze how these roadway improvements may impact this future bus service. So any bus stop locations, and help you make those decisions on proper spacing, let's say just between intersections, bus pullouts if they're needed, and also get a better sense if the bus stop locations are appropriately placed to accommodate future population and growth along the corridor. Here's just an overview of our overall goals for this planning process. So the scope of work was developed by Metro Plan's Technical Advisory Committee. And to conduct this planning effort, we also have a project advisory group made up of staff from our jurisdictional partners. And for Mountain Line, that includes Estella Hollander. The PAG is there to ensure that we can create an implementable plan that responds to our future community's needs. And so here's just an overview of these goals. Obviously, we need to identify multimodal and transportation projects for the corridor, looking at these bus stop locations as previously discussed, addressing those future transportation needs. We're looking at the network as a whole, connections, how people get to and from the corridor, prioritizing our projects based on our shared policies. And of course, we always want something to be implementable, so making sure that all of our local jurisdictions are on board with this moving forward. And then lastly, identify any projects that may be eligible for future federal funding as well. And here's just a little overview of where we are in the planning process already. This planning process goes into the summer of 2025. We've completed several of the foundational documents that will guide future decision-making. And this is helping us move into that alternative developments and assessments. So the PAG recently finalized the criteria in which we will evaluate potential projects and assign a score to determine, what responds best to those future scenarios. So jumping in a little bit more detail into that process, we started out this process at this high level, looking really at all of our shared policies and standards. And then we'll move down into more details, and then as it shows there, more specifics. And so the next slides I'm going to show you kind of get more into specifically what impacts transit and what we're looking at in terms of those criteria and those policies. So the project advisory group, we put together a big list of all the policies out there, and then we kind of put them in these different buckets is what we're calling them. So we have these 4 distinct buckets around broad principles and goals that we all share, around operations, meaning the moving of people and vehicles on the road, elevating bike and ped infrastructure, and of course, cost and investment, because this is 419 funding that we are responding to. And I would say transit-related criteria really falls into those first 3 buckets. Let's get into some more details. All right. So I'm not showing you all of the criteria. Once again, just pulling out the transit-relevant criteria for you today. So looking at broad principles and looking at the term equity and how this responds to transit comes really in 2 forms. And we're just going to really focus on our performance trends and targets here. But you're welcome to look at the whole slide, of course. So number 1, we want to increase transit routes and stops within a 1/4 mile of disadvantaged communities. And number 2, we want to increase access to transit within a 1/4 mile of legally binding affordable housing units. There are some affordable housing units already in existence along the corridor, and there are many planned as much of that future development. Looking under operations, we have managed mobility. This is looking at how we move people in and through the corridor. Related to transit, the trends we would like to see is an increase in ridership and maintaining or improving levels of service. Continuing under operations, we have managed accessibility. This one focuses more on the surrounding roadway network and how we can support connections that make it easier for people outside of vehicles to access the corridor. So looking at those trends, we want to increase that level of service for transit, walking, and biking, and increase the non-auto mode share. I believe this is the last bucket here. Elevating bicycle pedestrian infrastructure. My goodness, I lost my notes. Give me just a second. There we go. So we want to emphasize people getting to and from transit by biking or walking. This is the last of the transit specific criteria. There are, of course, several more, criteria that feed into this and support transit in many other ways. So, our next step is to test our criteria scoring method, which we just recently developed with our project advisory group. And we're going to take these criteria that you see here today, have those members help us rank and rate those, and then we're going to apply them into a Excel sheet for some methodology and scoring, all that fun stuff. And after that moment, we'll take a moment with our PAG and assess the results to see if we're finding any abnormalities in what we're seeing. Then additionally to that, I think the next step is we're conducting a public survey as well, where we're going to be asking the community about their thoughts on these criteria. That way that can also help inform our decision-making moving forward. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions out there?
Greg, you're muted.
Oh,
I swore I would not do that today. I wanted to thank you, Mandia, for an excellent presentation. And Heather or Rhonda, do we have any questions at all or comments?
Yes, Member Jackson has her hand up.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I do have a couple questions in regards to this process. I'm curious if there are any private business owners or landowners that are located along that corridor, a part of this, a part of your committee.
Not part of the committee itself, just because we are relying on the tax funding and particularly ADOT being the primary roadway owner. So there are some things that we have to abide by, policy and standard wise. However, we haven't quite started our public involvement yet, but we do have a section that's planned to reach out, basically cold call a lot of these businesses along along West Route 66 to get a better sense specifically around trucking and deliveries for them, because obviously West Route 66 is servicing the industrial section over there as well. And I have talked to a couple of folks along the corridor as business owners that we're just keeping in tabs for right now, but we will definitely be doing more outreach to them.
Awesome. I did hear that you were going to be reaching out to the community with the survey, which I think is great. And I just would highly encourage you to be very specific and intentional with the landowners and businesses along that corridor that this might affect. Well, it will, whatever happens is going to affect what they do into the future. And so getting their input, I think, would be really critical.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gail. Other comments or questions?
We don't have any more hands up.
Okay. Again, Mandia, thank you so much. Very informative and much appreciated. And we will now circle back into the discussion items. We're heading back to Josh. I think we've covered the audit report. Thank you, Josh. And now I think we're ready to talk about capital budget.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Presentation is back. Yes.
Great. Got it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So today we're going to take a look at our proposed fiscal year 2025 capital budget. Most of these items are actually progress, so they're just kind of a continuation of the 2024 budget, but 2025 will likely be an exciting year with some of the improvements moving into their final construction and completion phases. Here, staff convenes a series of meetings to assess Mountain Line's capital needs and ranks those according to the needs most urgent or appropriate for the current work cycle. Funding availability for those items is also evaluated to determine feasibility of completing the items as identified in need. So that said, the identified projects in the capital budget this for the next fiscal year comes in at $70.2 million. I'll say that around 47-ish million of this is projects already in process that have been vetted and approved in prior years' budgets. So those are basically simply carry over into the next fiscal year. So the largest new contributor to the $70 million budget is the Caspar maintenance facility at about $21 million, which we will discuss. So next slide, please. The photos in this slide, I think I ripped off from the city's capital budget presentation. So thank you to whoever found them. This one is a carry forward from the previous year. First and last mile projects are a grant funding source that is projects that are typically have an interaction with Mountain Line services. So these include other modes of getting around by walking or by bicycle before or after riding the bus. You take the bus across town, arrive at your destination stop, and then might need to cross the street and complete your travel on foot to your final destination. So Mountain Line has received a federal grant for this, and the local funding match for those federal funds are being provided by the city of Flagstaff, I believe Prop 419 funds. Maybe, I don't know. Planning has been in process to help determine which bicycle pedestrian infrastructure projects might be most beneficial to the community. Several of those have been identified and are moving forward their design phases at the moment for construction over the next few years. So next slide, please. Is the Downtown Connection Center. Construction is underway on the new administration and public service building. You've seen the block walls going through down the last couple of months. The building and associated property improvements are scheduled for construction completion in spring of 2025. The next year will be very busy. This 35 million is also a carry forward item from prior budgets. Next slide, please. Is Caspar maintenance facility, which we don't really have a concept rendering, so this is a very brief image of. This is a reconfiguration and expansion of buildings here on our Caspar property, and will allow our fleet team to much better accommodate and more comfortably service our vehicles and future vehicle needs. Right now, they have to work partially indoors and partially outdoors, depending on the weather, because our buses don't actually fit in our maintenance facility. This will fix that problem. Next slide, please. Is vehicles. We have budgeted to order some additional two, I believe, additional replacement buses. That will literally just be an order, because orders for buses are perhaps 18 months or 2 years out. So nothing will actually be delivered for quite some time, but we have grant funding available to order buses that are needed for our vehicle replacement schedule. So, and then this budget amount does include some maintenance amount for existing buses, and these are like larger overhauls to extend the life of current vehicles. So next slide, please. Is charging infrastructure, which will primarily, I think, be on the Caspar property and at the Downtown Connection Center. This slow charging for vehicles, and this is not our bus or exactly what the charger will look like, but it will. This will allow much faster charging of electric vehicles while they're in service throughout the day. So they don't need to come out of service when their charge is diminished after a few hours of service. Next slide, please. Is bus stops. We have, I think there's a couple new locations identified near the Crown, which when that is opened, I guess it's not open at the moment, and refurbishment of a variety of existing shelters and furniture of those shelters throughout town. Those are identified. Usually there's I don't know exactly how many of them usually per year. Maybe it might be like 10 to 15. but as they age and have wear and tear from both passengers and that just the elements, they need to be repainted and refurbished. So those will be fixed up as they're identified. Next slide, please. So that's pretty much all the major items. The final one is just planning studies, training for electric vehicles. There's a significant chunk in there for our mechanics, training on how to service a 100% electric vehicle. Some software needs, which includes an upgraded asset management software package. And that's pretty much it. So the total capital budget, all those items, is $70,232,000. That's really all I have on this item.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, that's quite the budget, and those projects are all very exciting. Thank you for the updates, and really appreciate the photos and the maps. Nice visuals. Do we have any questions or comments? Gail, I see your hand up. Jump in, please.
I always have questions. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chair Clifton. Josh, I have a question about on the slide here, the charging infrastructure. Do we know overall what the cost is for electrifying the buses to keep us moving in that direction? Because I mean, there's several line items, and I think that it could, you mentioned different software, and do we know what the overall budget is for moving us into that electric?
A complete conversion of the fleet is what you're saying?
Correct. Of all these projects, how much of this $70 million budget is being directed towards electrification?
I don't
Does that make
really
sense?
have a total. I think our zero emissions plan was approximately $17 million for our current system. So $17 million like above our current system. So if we have to replace all our vehicles over, however long that takes, 15 years, and all the associated infrastructure. So yeah, I think that it's about $17 million over what it would cost just to replace our buses with hybrid buses as they are now.
Got it. And can you remind me, does Mountain Line have a goal to have all electric buses by a certain date? Can you remind me?
No, not really by a certain date. Just
Okay.
vehicles need to be replaced as they come up for needing replacement, as the vehicles age and they are no longer as useful or efficient to us.
Awesome. Thank you.
If I may, Chair Clifton,
Yes,
I think just add, Josh answered everything wonderfully, but the zero emission bus transition plan that was adopted by our board of directors several years ago says that our goal is to replace our hybrid vehicles at their retirement with a zero emission vehicle. So if we replace them at their 12-year life, which is a federally defined point in time, then we would be completely zero emission by 2035, I believe. But we don't necessarily replace them just because they're 12 years old. And so that's where transit asset management comes in. And so that's just it's in the plan that way, but of course we don't replace early. We do replace based on maintenance cost. We do replace based on when things start to expire. Where do you reinvest in the vehicle? How much more life are you going to get out of it? We're just trying to be very good fiscal stewards when we talk about our fleet and our fleet replacement. One point I would add to what Josh shared about cost. When we put in the charger, like what was shown in the imagery on that slide, the above the bus charger, just as an example, that is roughly $1 million. That $1 million charger cost would not exist if we were replacing with hybrids. So trying to get at how much more is it for electric over hybrid, which I think was the basis of your question. But please, if I'm wrong, let me know. And the difference between a hybrid bus and a zero emission battery electric bus specifically is around $300,000. So just to give you some talking points around it, I will say that what we're seeing at the federal level is that we have a greater opportunity of continuing to receive 80% funding for vehicle replacement if we are able to implement the charging infrastructure and bring those buses to our community, not to mention how it is in keeping with the community's climate action plan and Mountain Line's real goals of reducing emissions further. Some of the software that Josh talked about, we would need whether we were going electric or not. So I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Gail, for the question. Thank you, Heather, for jumping in and clarifying on that. A quick comment on my end, if I may. This is very parallel to a discussion we had just 2 nights ago with our city council on electrification of the city's fleet. Of course, we do not operate buses, but it's a very parallel discussion. Nevertheless, that being, the need for us to retire existing fleet vehicles and replace them over time with electric vehicles and the infrastructure, the accompanying infrastructure as well. I guess it's a little bit validating to hear the dialogue of just now, because it does match what was being discussed the other night. I want to turn it back and see if there are any other comments or questions on this project and all the other important projects here. I don't see any, Heather, unless you do. Yeah, thank you so much, Josh, for a very informative capital budget update. And moving on, Heather, I think now we're going back to you to talk about the reduced fare program.
So Chair Clifton, members of the Transit Advisory Committee, have a very brief presentation to illustrate the points made in the staff report in your packet. Staff are recommending that the Board of Directors expand what we already have as a reduced fare program. Reduced fare is half price, just to give you that point right up front. We're asking that that program be expanded to include active military, veterans, and individuals that would otherwise qualify for low-income programs. So currently our Mountain Line fares here on the screen, you can see it's 60 cents. Our reduced fare is currently 60 cents for children, 7 to 17, seniors over 60, and those that are otherwise disabled or qualify for Medicare. Our normal fare is $1.25. So there's that half fare. To clarify, and this is in the staff report, the Federal Transit Administration requires us to have a half fare or reduced fare program, which is half of what a regular fare costs. And you can see in the chart how we apply that across day passes and monthly passes, et cetera. So by expanding the program to include these individuals named in the staff report, then they would be able to purchase any of these fares at that same reduced or half price rate. The other recommendation in this is to modify our discounted that should say discounted pass program. So these are agreements that we have with human service agencies here in town that have case management where they're helping people who need assistance. We sell them currently day passes at a reduced rate of 40% off. So if they buy a reduced day pass, they get it at a 40% discount. That's illustrated here on the screen. So reduced day pass cost $1.25 to a member of the public. Under this discounted pass agreement that we have, the human service agency pays 75 cents for that. And then they gift that or give those out to individuals in their case management program. We allow them to do that on both the reduced and the regular day passes. And the recommendation is to add monthly passes to that. So individuals who are working in case management for job access, obviously giving them a monthly pass allows them that that security of knowing they have transportation while they're establishing themselves in their jobs and in the community. And so we're recommending that we add up to 50 passes, no, I'm sorry, 100 monthly passes per agreement. That's on an annual basis, so they could buy up to 100 monthly passes, 1,500 day passes, either kind, reduced or regular, for distribution under their pass programs. We would apply the 40% in the sale price that we offer them. I illustrated the value of these programs so that you can kind of get an idea of what we are talking about adding. So currently, on average, the day pass program is about a $1,500 program per agency. And if we add the monthly pass, it's roughly an additional $1,500 available to each of these programs. I hope those talking points make sense. I look forward to your feedback. We want the board to understand what's being proposed. Ultimately, our goal is to serve more people with reduced fare as part of our fare programs. And again, fare programs like this are important for transportation equity, equal access to transportation for jobs, for healthcare, or whatever member of the public needs. That's everything that I have for you. But again, I'd be happy to answer any questions or go back over any of this that did not make sense.
Thank you, Heather. I thought it made a lot of sense, but let's hear any comments that might be out there. Tiffany, your hand is raised, please.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I love this proposal. I do have a question about that discounted fare application. Is it possible to get a copy of that just to take a peek at it, or is that something that goes to the board first before we can review that?
No, the application that is linked here, you mean the reduced fare application? So that's actually available on our website, but we would also be happy to out. For individuals who have already an identification card that identifies them as part of any of these qualifying groups, they don't have to complete an application. We provide the application for people who would not otherwise have a document to illustrate that, or to any individual who doesn't want to carry around those documents.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. I was just thinking about our low income populations and how kind of what that application process would look like as if we were to refer a client to Mountain Line to receive that discounted fare, what that process would look like for them. But I can definitely go to the website and check that out.
And I'll just add that as part of this recommendation is authorization for staff to take those next steps, like update this application process. And so Tiffany, maybe there's an opportunity for our staff to work with you so that as we update, we're very cognizant of what might be available in our community, because we don't want to qualify people as low income. We want to recognize where they are already qualified for low income programs. So if that's reasonable to you, that link on our website is not going to take you to an application that shows these new categories. That's something we will need to add in the coming months.
Thank you. That makes sense. I would love to be part of that conversation. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany and Heather. Any other comments or questions about this presentation or the contents within the presentation? All right, thank you, Heather. I know we are going to talk about the CDL course program, but you informed me that Anne is not presenting on that, Heather, and I can't remember who is.
Sam is going to make that presentation on Anne's behalf.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, Sam, good to have you back at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Transit Advisory Committee. Sam Short, Workforce Director for Mountain Line. As mentioned, I will be presenting this for Ann Dunno, who is on a much-deserved vacation. So this is an update on the commercial driver's license course project closeout. The board may provide direction, but there's no recommendation from staff at this time. So as you can see on the screen, this is a picture of our CDL course that was just constructed. It is located on Northern Arizona University, just behind the facilities services building on South Campus. Also take note of the power lines in this one picture because that will come up later. So this course was designed and constructed in partnership with Northern Arizona University, and it was funded by the Federal Transit Administration. Mountain Line does own the facility, and we, along with NAU, are responsible for the maintenance of the project. So here's a slide showing some of the construction status for the course and some things that need to be done prior to completion. The substantial completion was approved on March 26th, which means all the main or major construction was completed. One thing that is still pending is the APS agreement. Our course is located on an APS easement, so we needed to have an agreement with APS to use the course because it's underneath the power lines. Mountain Line and NAU have both signed the agreement, and we're just waiting for APS to sign the agreement and send it back to us. Another couple of small items that still need to be completed for the course is to have a gate placed at the entrance of the CDL training ground, so no one but us or other agencies can enter the course and use it. We're also going to be putting in a seating canopy to cover the people sitting in the seating area, watching other people go through the courses. We're also needing to get the course striped for both A and B commercial driver's license testing. And there's also going to be erosion control and hydro seeding placed around the CDL course because it does slope from the CDL course downward. And then also a final clean and a street sweep. So those are the pending items that still need to be completed, but they're very minor, and we're hoping to have them done by May 20th. There will also be a ribbon cutting ceremony on May 22nd, which the Transit Advisory Committee and the board will, of course, be invited to. Here's a picture of the actual course itself. You can see up here is the facility services building, and then you have our course right here. So you have Carousel A and Carousel B. Both will be striped again for CDL class A and B. And you'll have your seating area here, which will be covered. Again, everything around the course slopes downward, so it's important to make sure that we have any erosion control placed around the course, so the area surrounding the course doesn't erode. But there's a picture of that. Mountain Line does have control of the scheduling for this course. It's approximately 1 acre in size, or 47,880 square feet. So again, we do manage the use of this course, and third parties can use the course if we are not using it by filling out a facilities use agreement, and the cost of the course is $50 a day, which will go towards maintenance of the property. So again, the board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Are there any questions? I could try to answer them. For Ann?
Thank you, Sam. Any questions for Sam? Very good presentation, Sam, and we're all excited to see closure to this wonderful project right around the corner. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I believe we are on to progress reports. There are several of them. And I think, Heather, this is where I just ask if there are any questions or comments on these, right? We're not going to talk about them.
Correct. I do have a couple slides for current events, but otherwise we will only talk about the items if you have questions.
Okay.
All right, I can jump right into current events then. Briefly, there is a report on this, but while in DC recently, I was able to meet with all 3 of our representatives, which is really not common. Usually we meet with their staff, so I felt very honored to be able to be there and meet with each of them to follow up on our projects. We have been there 3 times in the last 18 months, and I will tell you in this visit, staff knew what we were there to talk about. They knew our projects, they knew our initiatives. So I really feel like those visits in DC are paying off because it's creating that continuity in our conversations. We do have 6 staff members in training right now. This was 4 of them training in the snow, so we were delighted to have those winter conditions so that we could actually provide that boots on the ground training of our winter driving here in Flagstaff. 2 of the individuals in this slide have actually achieved their CDL and are currently doing route training with our drivers in regular service. I just spoke to someone yesterday and he says, I get to drive, and he was so excited. So it's great to see more staff coming on board with us, and we hope to have an update on service in the coming weeks or months. We did participate in a bus rodeo. Tucson, or Suntran, had a bus rodeo on their property in Tucson for their staff, but they extended the invitation statewide to transit members. And we were able to take our driver, he is the second from the right-hand side of the screen, kind of bent over, holding his trophy. We actually approached Nick. He had about 3 days to prepare to participate in this bus rodeo. And a bus rodeo is a competition that includes a driving skills test that really assesses someone's transit knowledge and skills. And it's done in a very team building and competitive manner. So real builds around the team and that pride in the professional drivers that we have. Nick was actually able to drive the course only 2 times before he competed. And I am proud to report he placed first in the 35-foot bus division. And so that he is holding is his first place trophy. And it was great to do that. And I will say, him coming back and sharing this story with our drivers has created some energy around what we are planning in doing our own bus rodeo here at Mountain Line on our new CDL course. And we're hoping to take our winner from that to a national competition in Florida this June. So very exciting to see bus rodeos kind of get energy again. They were common before COVID. I think a lot of properties have not added them back. Driver shortages create a problem for, being able to send somebody to these, but we were excited that Nick could participate and very proud of his professional driving skills that were demonstrated and earned him this first place trophy. I wanted to provide a quick look at the school pass program. We just met with Superintendent Pensa and went over this data. And I want to say I've put FUSD in parentheses because this is really an overall look at school passes. Remember, FUSD is buying regular school or semester passes from us. I have no way to identify which users go to what school. But some good data points that we believe are out of the relationship that we have with FUSD. You can see a 91% increase in the number of uses of a spring semester pass over a year ago, almost 2 times the number of passes being used each weekday. 356 individual passes have been used, 180% increase over this time last year. And 97% of these trips are occurring on weekdays. And then lastly is the graph that was put together. You can see students are using all the routes. 127 bus stops have activity. So 77% of our system is serving our K through 12 population here in Flagstaff. And I want to point out, this is just for January through March 18th. So we will continue to monitor this activity. We've already started conversations with FUSD about what is their plan going forward and how do we look at pass programs that allow us to better track how many of our semester passes are actually FUSD students versus citywide K through 12 students. Aggravated assault, we presented on this about a month ago. I'm very pleased to report that this bill amendment that would add transit workers, rail workers, and airport workers to the definition of aggravated assault or a felony charge has made it all the way through the House. I was down there for one House committee meeting. It went to the House floor and passed 53-3. 3 people chose not to vote. It has now passed the first Senate hearing, and this photo is actually myself, Bernice Tooley, who is our Assistant Operations Manager, and Russell Beck, one of our operations supervisors. They went with me to testify in front of the Senate committee. It did pass out of that committee 6-1, and it is, my understanding is it was heard by the second Senate committee yesterday. I apologize, I don't have the results of that. We were expecting it to pass. We'll then move to the Senate for a full floor vote. and then go to the governor. We are actually anticipating that this change will pass, and we're very excited about it because we think it is a measure to express to our drivers the value that they offer in the job that they perform and the protections that we want to offer them in preventing transit assault. I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge Kate Morley and Metro Plan. So Arizona Smart Fund is a funding mechanism that was introduced by the state about a year ago. If you remember, when we were down there asking for the $6 million for our downtown connection center, we were actually told by the governor's office, we want you to stop pursuing this appropriation. We want you to use this new smart fund that we're going to introduce instead. We, of course, said, thank you very much, but we're going to continue with our appropriation ask. When the smart fund actually passed, it excluded transit authorities. It excluded anyone who was not operating within a city or a county structure. And the nuance of this is, to be eligible for smart funds, you have to be the federal recipient. So even the city and the county cannot apply for match money for our transit projects because they are not the recipient of the federal grants for those transit projects. Kate, while was still at Mountain Line, and then as she moved into her role at Metro Plan, has really helped craft the language, and this bill has completely passed. It's on its way to the governor's desk, and essentially the language change will allow transit agencies as well as other federal recipients like Metro Plan to access these funds, which are meant to match federal grants in rural Arizona. So very thankful for Kate and the role of Metro Plan in really ushering that through, but really it was Kate that crafted a lot of the language. And so I wanted to recognize her here with all of you, and we will do the same with the board. I have to tell you, I get a little childish about some of my excitement. I told people a couple months ago, the DCC has doors. And then I said, oh my goodness, the DCC has walls. I am even more excited. Do you see the windows? The DCC has windows. So I just wanted to share with you, if you've not driven by the building, it is really coming along. You can definitely see the improvement as you come down Milton and go across Phoenix. And it's very exciting. So thank you for letting me share my childish enthusiasm for walls, windows, and doors. Last thing I have for you in current events is we have one more anniversary to share with you. Teresa Sharon is celebrating 6 years as the transit bus operator here at Mountain Line. She also serves as a relief in our operations supervisor division, and we're very excited to celebrate her 6 years of dedicated service to transit programs. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, that's my entire report.
Thank you, Heather. Good stuff. And don't ever lose your enthusiasm. Walls, doors, windows, it's all very important. Can't wait to see the project progress. It is looking very good. Congratulations to Teresa, and congratulations on the award in Tucson. Are there any questions or comments about what Heather just covered or any of the items in the progress reports? Gail, back to you, please.
I am just full of comments today. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much to Mountain Line and their staff for stepping in January and really taking on the FUSD school program with not a lot of notice. As a parent of an FUSD students that were affected by that, I think you need to know that that was a really big feat, and you guys did a great job on that. I did share this with Mike Penska and his team, but I'm hopeful that if this continues, that maybe there might be somebody on the bus, maybe that first week of school in August, just so that kids can get a little more, know where things are, where they need to go, things like that. But you guys are doing a great job, and I just wanted to publicly say that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if I can respond, I will tell you, that was one of the things we brought up in our conversation, is that if we are going to continue doing this, no matter what it looks like in regards to a past program, we want to be part of the outreach in the summer. We want to participate in the open houses. We want to provide opportunities for parents to get on the vehicle with the students prior to the start of the school year and familiarize themselves and their student with the program, but also for us to be better able to have staff on the platforms, on the buses, to help students who are lost and confused. And we've had drivers make recommendations that we're also considering. So thank you for this suggestion. Please know they are all right there in our minds as we think about what next year looks like.
Yeah, good comment, Gail. Thank you. And thank you, Heather, for the follow-up. Other questions, comments? I think it's a wrap on the progress reports. Heather, want to talk about what lies ahead?
Yes, so we will have our next meeting. It will be a joint meeting Wednesday, May 15th. Please note it's a different time and a different location because it is our joint meeting. Ron, if you can go to the next slide. Just as a preview of some of the things that we have on that agenda for you, review of the strategic work plan, the final budget presentation. We are going to talk more about electric vehicles, both the charging infrastructure and vehicle replacement. And then we will have an update from Ann on bus stop acquisition. And the last kind of discussion item will be the transit tax update, where we're at with the CAC and what we might anticipate to be a recommendation at a future board meeting. All of those are designed to be interactive discussion items. So if you have thoughts or input now on items that we should be considering, please let us know. Otherwise, we will see you all in May.
Looking forward to that very much. And that's at the Aquaplex. So looking forward to the joint meeting. Thanks for walking us through that, Heather. Let's see, what else do we have?
That's everything.
Does that conclude everything? We've covered some ground, and how are we doing? It's 11:15 a.m. Are we doing good time-wise?
You are 45 minutes early if you choose to adjourn.
Unless there are any additional comments or questions, I would suggest that we do adjourn. So thank you all for your attendance. And Heather, I don't see any hands raised virtually or in the room, so we're good to go.
We are. Thank you all for your time today.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you all
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.